Does it ask?
How do you really feel?
Does it ask you for verification every time?
Verification every time?
No,
Yeah.
every 30 days. You can
Every
bounce
30,
it.
yeah, that sounds about right.
I hit the every 30 days every single time, and every time it asks me for verification the next time.
Goodness. Oh, that's annoying.
It's just trying to be really careful.
Yeah, yeah. It knows you have a lot of sensitive stuff on your computer.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we're going to call the meeting to order at 4:04 this afternoon. It's the Justice and Equity Committee meeting of the Charter Review Commission. It's April 5th, and we are looking forward to having a good discussion together. So,
Madam Chair,
pardon me? Yes, yes, sir.
I have a point of order for Mr. Senior Chair. This body needs to have a company picnic sooner than later to get together and to recreate and move this work forward. So I put that in your wheelhouse, make it happen. Anyway, carry on.
How about right now, I run down to my boat, Sharon, get to the Orcas dock. We're gonna go pick up Kyle in Friday Harbor and then Zoom, and we're all gonna have a beer and a really bad burger at the Islander.
Sounds great.
If I had a catapult, I would be on it right now.
Seriously, that would be wonderful. Because the subject matter of this committee deserves yeah, just free flowing conversation, frankly. Yeah, I hear you, Kyle. Okay, so
Totally screw up our, Madam Chair.
yes, sir.
Can I
Yes.
screw up our agenda entirely and just share a quick story?
You're not screwing up the agenda. You may share the story. Go ahead.
So the interview I just did was with this guy he's out of Laguna Beach, California, and he's got a podcast he does on kind of oceans and leadership on climate and so on. And so he was asking me about my work globally and what came up. And I ended up, he said, well, you're kind of like stuck on one issue. And I said, hey, if I'm a one-trick pony, at least it's the right trick. What kept coming up was the fact that if we're going to do anything on climate change and oceans, it needs to begin with equity and justice. And what we were talking, we were like talking about marine protected areas. And I was like, you know what? It's very privileged and white of us to be able to say that we're going to close an area to fishing. And I said, but you know, some of the communities I work with in Mexico or in Fiji, like, there's not an option. Like I said, that's very privileged. I said, frankly, being an environmentalist is privileged.
Absolutely.
The fact that I get to say I care about the environment means that obviously I'm able to feed my kids and keep a roof over to my head, because if I weren't, that would be the priority.
Yeah.
And no matter what, like, am I going to protect my little girl over anything? Of course. And if that means I'm going to go, like, anyway.
Yeah.
Really
yeah.
interesting. And what kept coming back to me is how important the work of this committee is as it relates to every single other thing we're doing.
Absolutely. You know, you're, yeah, totally agree with you there. And Kevin, that's my experience in international work as well in developing countries. And, you know, you know, the government wants to stop people from dumping dynamite in the water to, you know, more sustainably fish. Well, then they need to have the tools and the ability to do that. And so it's, or find alternative livelihoods. And so it's, yeah. And, yeah. So anyway, I digress. Okay. So don't worry. Thank you for that.
Last thing I want to say on that is that a colleague of mine in Fiji, when I first met him, he said something that blew me away and made me want to work with him, which was, he said, the greatest threat to marine conservation is poverty.
Oh, absolutely. I saw that the entire 4 years I lived in Indonesia, like right up close and personal. It was phenomenal. Yeah. So thank you for that, actually, Kevin, because that's a neat thing for us to contemplate as we do this work, and actually touches on something Kyle and I talked about briefly as a pre-meeting about sort of what we're focusing on this meeting in terms of the important interconnections between the Climate Change and Environment Committee and its work, and also the preamble committee's work and this committee's work. So we might touch on that in our discussion today at some point as relevant. So right off the top, I think what we need to, and we welcome to our guest. It's nice to have the public attend. Welcome, Micheline. Let's just take stock for a moment of the minutes that we need to approve from March 8th, 15th, and 22nd. Did you guys get a chance to just scan them? I mean, I think you've seen iterations of them.
I moved, adopt all 3 sets of minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I've got 2 seconds. Okay, everyone in favor of approving these 3 minutes?
Actually, do we have some conversation?
Oh,
Yeah,
would you like some discussion?
Dialogue,
Yes,
discussion,
yes.
I had a clarifying question for the rest of you since my memory is so poor. It was in comments. Oh, shoot. I highlighted it on my screen. I think it was about the implicit bias training that Judge Loring was talking about. I think the notes say that is offered. Okay, maybe I misread that. Somewhere in the minutes, it says it's offered to all court staff, which I think is the case. And somewhere else it says it's offered to all potential, potential jurors starting in 2018. And I didn't hear that right. So if you need location, so it's all in the number 3 set, the most recent set that would be from 322 under Loring and Anderson comments, probably 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so not a big deal. I just didn't remember her saying that. Surprises me if they show that video to all potential jurors. That's not what I heard. So just to set the record straight, is that what you guys heard?
I did not, but she very well could have said it and I missed it.
Me too. Yeah, she could have said it and I missed it as well. Sharon, your recollection on that?
If I wrote it down, that means I believe she said it. we should check it with her. I'm usually pretty accurate at those things,
Yeah.
but I can't say 100%. So
Okay.
I'm pretty sure she did say it, but I would be happy to check it with her.
Okay. So as a way of resolving this, Sharon, would you mind just doing a quick check? And we agree to approve the minutes subject to a minor modification to that point for the minutes on March 22nd, if necessary.
Okay.
Okay. So can we put a vote on that? Would everybody like to vote? Yay, nay? Yes, Kevin?
What if we just postpone the vote and I'm texting Linnea right now and we could have an answer?
Great idea.
Okay, sure. Yep. Do it
that's
live
fine.
live in real time.
Minutes at the end of the meeting?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Just don't let me forget. Okay, guys?
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. That's great. Okay, so we're moving on to, and I didn't ask, I'm sorry, I apologize, if you were all okay with the agenda in principle for today's meeting. Is everybody on board with what we're looking at? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry,
yes?
Kyle, what's the name of that video again?
The implicit bias. Did I mute
Okay.
myself? No, implicit bias training.
Okay,
That,
excellent.
Madam Chair, does that include the timeline you set of ending at 5? Is that what we're
That's a
deciding
good
on now?
question. That's a good question. Thank you. Would you guys like to aim to end at 5, or do you feel, given that we're a bit process heavy, you are flexible to running over a few minutes, or what do you all feel? We don't have speakers. We don't have anyone presenting. It's conceivable we could finish at 5 o'clock, and we could aim for that. Kevin?
Why don't we aim for 5, but I have flexibility if we have to go over a few.
Okay, excellent. That sounds good. Thank
Thank you.
you. Okay, so agenda item number 3, we're doing a bit of a stock taking in this meeting, and not only of our list of issues on the spreadsheet, the updated spreadsheet I shared with you of issues we're dealing with. I shared it with you in my email with all the other attachments, and it includes the 3 Justice and Equity sort of committee issues that bubbled up out of the town hall meetings that have been notionally assigned for us to take some consideration of. So I added those 3 to it. I think I also, as you will appreciate, sent to you this sort of a think piece stream of conscious issues for us to consider further piece, the one and a half page document to sort of spur our thinking about what we've learned so far, what we've notionally understood we want to try to head towards in terms of, conceivable amendments of the charter, et cetera. And I put that as really grist for our mill for Agenda 3, and I can refer to it as we go along. But before we delve into Agenda Item 3, I would like to ask all of you, all three of you, where would you like to be at the end of this committee meeting? Because I feel like, not that we're behind other committees, I just feel like we need to do a bit of a reset and a refocus as to what's really important to us, where do we want to be going in aiming to get there and complete our work, and but most importantly, just as an initial thing, where do we want to be at the end of this meeting, based on having done some stock taking? What would you like us to have accomplished today? So any of you would like to start? I'll happy to go last. Kyle.
I feel like it's reasonable right now to talk for a few minutes, maybe not this instant, but sometime this afternoon, about whether or not we are gunning for something on the ballot this fall, or whether this committee's work is more long running than that. And I'm not sure I have feeling either way. I'm sure there's some thought to how to prioritize that based on the size of the voting population and other issues. But that would be good, because it really does steer the number of things that we bite off. And I see some, adding the 3 items from town hall, I see some way to, sort of crush and develop more continuity, but it still is another 50% of the work we could do, frankly. I mean, what we're doing is important, but I think there's a whole other body of conversation. So if we need to, if consensus says speed along and be ready this fall, then I think this meeting and other meetings following should kind of take a slightly different flavor. But I would love to have our process spreadsheet, or our justice and equity spreadsheet, be fully defined by the end of this meeting. So, if it's on there, we commit to work on it, and we decide which falls off and what gets, some of this stuff could frankly be, I don't know what the chairs, what Kevin's position is on forward motion. There could potentially, for committees whose work gets done, and those people free up, I don't know if there's a mechanism to reassign some of those people to kind of work. I don't know. But there's some other things that are going to need some face time.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Kyle. Sharon or Kevin?
So I think it's time for us to begin deciding what we're recommending to the full commission, and then move into the findings to support those positions. And so, Kyle, to the question you raised, my hope is that we're aiming for November, which means that by early June, we're done, not just with this subcommittee, but the full commission, and putting recommendations to the county council so they can have a public hearing. Yeah. And so I think it is past time that we start saying, just go down this list. We've got, 10 items on here. Go down, start, and just up or down vote. Yes, we're recommending it, or no, we're not.
Okay.
If it's no or yes, does it need to be some more discussion on it? And then, or is it yes? And of course, we need more discussion to work out exactly what that means. But yes, we're doing it. And so then we've got a list, and we narrow it down. Hopefully we narrow it down. And instead of 10 things, we're coming in and we say, here's the 2 or 3 or 1 thing that we're recommending.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's that time. And I
All
would
right.
say that Melanie is with us as well, but she did confirm in her text that they are providing that incredible resource to all jurors. So, which is insane. Yeah. They're
Insane in a good way, correct?
Oh yeah, not like, Charles Manson insane, but like, Nelson Mandela insane. Like,
Indeed. Excellent.
Yeah, but they always show the jurors a video at the very beginning of the trial, so I can imagine they could include it in that.
I've never
Uh-huh.
been elected because they always think I have too many bias. So anyway, I better knock on
Okay.
wood. So I think
Okay.
we need to move forward. I would love to see us just go down and check them off this list. And the other thing
Okay.
is that Wednesday I've asked Jane and Kyle, I'm sorry, I should have asked you both and I did not. If you guys would be willing to present to the full commission on findings and ideas that are coming out of this committee, because where I'm pushing the full commission agenda is
Mhm.
going forward for the next several weeks. We're going to have discussions from each committee on what's being recommended so that the full commission can start weighing in. So this Wednesday, like 2
Okay.
days from now, you guys are going to be
Sure.
sharing some of that and then getting feedback.
Sure. Okay. Excellent. Yep. And that's fair game, which is why all the more important we want to land somewhere at the end of this meeting for sure, in terms of what you're both putting on the table. Okay, Sharon, go ahead. If Kevin's done. Yep.
Are you finished, Kevin? Are you finished? Well, I'm kind of frustrated that we haven't gotten to hear from James Wolfe. We haven't gotten to hear from Berto. I really would like to hear from some more people involved with the Latino community and with the county government. I think that would really help inform us. But I'm also interested to go over what language we already have that we might have gleaned from other places. The main thing that stands out in my mind is that whatever we put in the charter has to be meaningful. It can't, and we've talked about this many times, but that's the thing that came to me from one of my friends I spoke to on the island here. It's like she's not interested unless it's going to actually be meaningful. Then she's interested, So
Mhm.
that's what it's about.
Okay. Sharon, can I just ask for clarification? When you say has to be meaningful, to you, what does that look like?
Well, I guess that's what we have to hash out. But what
Okay.
it means that there is a, a cultural value that we insist on in the county,
Okay.
and we have to have some kind of education around that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I could be
Okay.
more right now.
No, that's very helpful. That's very helpful. Okay. Thank you. Okay. If you're okay with it, I will just throw my couple of cents on the table. Um, I agree. I agree with Kevin that we want to come to collective agreement, shared agreement among our committee about the issues that we want to move forward with. I also think what Kyle was saying about, is this doable within the time frame of June is important for us to take stock of in that. So I think that if we feel we can do it by June, okay, and then if something comes up in our discussion that we don't think that's feasible, we can explore that. And Sharon, I also agree with you that it needs to be meaning. It needs to have meaning. It needs to be meaningful, and that we need to be mindful of talking about what that looks like. For me, something that I feel pretty strongly about seeing if, because it's not on our list of issues directly, specifically, because it's something we've learned in the course of our work. But it does relate to issue number 2, which is one that I sort of put on our list of issues, and that is that our charter must have some kind of non-discrimination clause written into it that is obligates this county government to have some basic fundamental respect for human rights of all peoples. And as I shared with you, we have no language of that nature. And it strikes me that if we have an environment and climate change committee that's talking about rights of nature, and we're loosely thinking about talking about the Bill of Rights and the preamble, I want to just be much more specific about that and say that I would like to suggest we entertain the idea of ensuring that this charter has within itself somewhere, perhaps under a new article that might be proposed, I'm not sure, but that we have something on non-discrimination and that be broadly inclusive. Okay, Sharon, did you want to have something to say?
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And I don't know if there's anything we can really do about this, but is there anything we can do to ensure that there's a certain culture in our schools, that kids are feeling safe in school, that if something comes up, there is a way to deal with it, that we have a cultural diversity education element in our schools?
That's not within our purview.
That's not within our, there's nowhere to stick that in there. In the structural.
I have this dream, Sharon, that at the end of this somehow someone will have the time to kind of collect all the things we don't get to and figure out where they live in the county. And I mean, for what it's worth, just encourage those groups and forces that are already working. I mean, I wanted to do that now for, I mean, some of our audience listening, just, reinforce the work that's already happening. But, that's the one of the things you see so often is this isn't getting done, or it's not getting the right daylight, and it's not in the scope of CRC.
You know what, that's an interesting point, Kyle. I think something that, and Kevin, maybe this is something that we as a broader commission can talk about, but as we all know, at the conclusion of the previous Charter Review Commission process, a paper on the findings of the CRC was developed penned by Richard Ward, if I'm not mistaken. And you almost wonder, are we obligated to write such a paper? I imagine we should feel some obligation to do so. And if that paper might not be a very solid and worthy placeholder for an annex that contains all manner of substantive issues that came up and had some shared traction across the commission as issues that should be kept in mind somehow, somewhere within the county going forward. It's just because I hear what you're saying, Kyle, and yeah, anyway. Kevin, do you know if we're meant to write a report, by the way, as like a findings report for our work, or?
I hope so.
Okay. Okay.
We haven't, it's up to us. We get to do whatever we want. We're independently elected.
Sure.
But
Okay.
my hope would be that we capture that for the reasons that Kyle and Aaron were just going back and forth on. But, this idea of just, we're not going to be able to do everything, but there's a lot of really important ideas. And Sharon, to your point, that's a school board issue. And you should know the Orca School Board is actually implementing a really exciting program right now in conjunction with Kevin Carter and some others. So,
Okay.
I really feel like, though, that this last back and forth just reminds me there's a ton of work writing up ideas that has to happen after we decide what their ideas are.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just stress again, it would be great if at the end of today's meeting, we had an up or down vote on every one of these 10 items.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to your point about like wanting to hear from Berto and others, where is more important to hear from them, I believe, is when we've decided we're doing item X, and then we say, how would you help us? Or what would you suggest we do to implement that? And so, for instance, on the first one, creating a law and justice oversight committee, let's just vote. We're doing it. And then we go to Berto and say, dude, we're doing this. We need your input. And again, he's absolutely willing to help. He's just had some stuff going on. So,
Sure.
so he hasn't been able, but I think frankly, that also motivates people to engage too. If the subcommittee gets a vote, this is just like the Senate, man. Before it gets out of committee, no one cares about your bill. But after it's out of committee and it's heading to the floor for the big vote, all of a sudden people are like, dude, I hate that, or I love that.
Right.
So let's get some dude reaction out there. Like, and by the way, Jane, before you say it, dude is not gender specific.
Yeah, whatever.
Never been in my life.
Dude is an adjective, a noun, it's everything at once.
Yeah. Okay. As defined by Kevin Ranker. Sure. I gotcha. No worries. Yeah, I no problem. I call people guys all the time. For me, guys are absolutely. I agree. Thank you for that, Kevin. I think this is a good approach. Why don't we turn to our, I can screen share our list of issues if you guys would like.
Yeah,
Just,
I think this is a perfect thing to do right now. And I was just looking
okay.
at the list of speakers, and there's more people we need to hear from, but let's do this first.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with that. Okay, so I've got my screen share. Here we go. Let me know when you can see.
That's good.
You got it?
Yep, I say
Okay.
yes to all of it. Next item.
Okay. Wait a minute, Kyle. Okay, so,
Actually, Madam Chair,
yes, sir.
Kyle, in his somewhat humorous statement, brings up a good point, which is I think all of us love all of these items or most of them. I think it would be helpful for us to, in voting for them, actually prioritize them. So
Mhm.
that if we're only able to actually get one or two of these forward, what would those be?
Right.
Or if it's absolutely we need all 10, then that's what we're going to report on Wednesday to the full commission. And we're going to tell them we're not doing anything else other than racial justice issues. Screw you.
Right.
I just
Right.
realized I'm tired and I haven't had an inner voice in like 3 years, but I really don't have an inner voice tonight. So if I start cussing on our recorded meeting or something,
Okay, well, I will hit pause on the record and call you into order. All right, fair enough. Okay, so off the top, what we'll do, would you like to go ahead and vote yay or nay on each of these? Perhaps just to, do we need that formality or not?
yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
there needs to be a vote from the subcommittee saying that we recommend this for action from the full commission.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right, so we're going to start off with number 1, creation of an independent citizens law and justice oversight committee. Do I have a vote? Yeah, Kyle, you put your hand up first. What did you want to say?
I think this goes without saying. I just feel some obligation. So, this is nuts and bolts, and this is a turning point, and we needed to get here. But with the present listening company and anyone who might consume this later on, a lot of this is really important. Clearly, it's important to other people. I think we'd all agree. The way I vote is really more to do with the mechanism of getting traction. It isn't that I don't value some of those other things, including what I've brought up, but I don't think there's any other way to do it. So it's in that light that I make my choices.
Fair enough. Understood. Kevin, yep.
Well, actually, I will move that we move this to the full commission for action. What I was going to say though is after we get a second under discussion for each of these, up or down, I think we need some discussion with some good note taking, Sharon, on what that action looks like for us right now, so that both Micheline and Linnea, but others who watch this later can understand what the legislative intent was. So I will move that we create an Office of Independent Oversight, a Law and Justice Oversight Committee.
Okay. Do I have a second? Sharon, that's a second? Okay, you were muted. Okay. All right, discussion.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I see this as, frankly, one of the most important things we can do on justice and equity. And for me, it's very clear that this is not just over the sheriff's department. This is over the sheriff's department, the courts, and the prosecuting attorney. So the entire law and justice system. I think that it is an oversight committee. So we need to think about what are the strengths that we can give this committee so that they have an ability to really provide oversight, not just, this is not an advisory committee. It needs to have some teeth. And I don't know what that looks like right now. I think King County has done a good job of creating theirs. I also just heard, and I'm reaching out to a friend of mine who's actually on their charter review commission, that Clallam County is doing their process right now and maybe having some similar conversations. So I want to talk to them. My point is there's examples out there. I don't know if we need to fully reinvent the wheel, but I do think that it needs to have true oversight so that it can influence decisions as well as provide impartial and just reviews of actions or decisions that were made by these different departments. The final thing I will say is that we also, I think, need to be very prescriptive on who is on this oversight committee. And I do think that there could be or should be representation from the sheriff's department, from the courts, from the prosecuting attorney. But most importantly, it needs to have a diversity of citizenship represented. So representing our Latinx population, representing indigenous communities, and others that are often impacted by unjust decisions.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Further discussion, Sharon or Kyle?
Well, one other thing, it should probably be all women, just so that it actually gets something done and isn't stupid.
Sounds good. Excellent. Totally concur. Okay, Sharon or Kyle? Kyle.
I was just going to ask Kevin if based on the interest level of the commission at large, there isn't the support for oversight. Are you still behind the notion of an advisory committee? If it's I was going to say reduced, I don't know, but if it's somehow if the power is taken out of it at the oversight level, does it still rise to your interest level?
I'm not sure, but probably not.
Okay.
And here's why. I'm really tired, and having been a part of this for too long, of politicians, and whether they be an elected sheriff or prosecutor or judge or a state legislator, or even better example, or a county council member, taking an action that has no action in it. This gets back to the resolution versus ordinance, right?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, if we create a law and justice committee that's an advisory committee, we might as well just stick with the resolution that the county council passed last year, which has done nothing.
Mhm.
And so I want action. And I think it's past time that we take action to truly to make sure that we have a just and equitable government. And this is our opportunity to do that at the local level. And so I think it's better to be a martyr than to pass something that does nothing. And what I mean by martyr is if we say we wanted to do this and it died, that would be stronger than passing something that doesn't really do anything, because that just gets our citizens' hopes up. It gives us faith in a process that isn't truly just and is a shell game.
Okay.
So I guess I'm convincing myself that no, I'm not still thinking about it. I'm not supportive if it's not an oversight committee, or if it's, maybe it's an advisory committee that still has teeth somehow. And again, I can't define right now what those teeth are and what the oversight committee is. I would actually look to Judge Loring and Linnea, who's on this call, and others, to Randy and others within the system, to give us their input and ideas. I am not, however, looking forward to some individuals in the law and justice system telling us we don't need oversight, we're handling this on our own. If you are, awesome, an oversight committee will only support you.
Right. Sharon, you're on a call. Did you want to make a comment or?
Hang on. I'm going to get off the call in just a second, you guys.
Okay. I'm going to take this opportunity then just to make one or two comments myself. I'm in support of keeping this issue on this list, and I'm in support of bringing it to the full commission once we've done a deeper dive in terms of what that entity would be. And I'm concerned with the all or nothing approach. I'd like to, because I think that's risky, and I think it could result in this issue being swept under the carpet for the next 10 years potentially, which would cost a lot. So that being said, I would be in favor of something that's really important in terms of community development, and that is trying to cultivate ownership for such an initiative and such an entity, whereby our elected people in this county government and our county manager and department heads see some value in having, and not across the board participating, but having some representation on such a body that could work collaboratively and meaningfully with citizens, representative citizens who sit on this body, and take seriously the oversight function that they have been empowered to play by virtue of this being put into our charter. So, and I don't want that to sound like milquetoast, because I don't mean for it to sound like that at all. I just think that my spidey senses tell me, based on a little bit of the information we've heard already from a few elected officials who've spoken to us, they're not interested in mandate creep. And so I think we need to find a way of cultivating sort of shared ownership of the importance of such a body. So that being said, I would support the issue staying with us and working on it. Sharon, did you have anything you wanted to chime in with?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Kyle, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yep.
Kyle, what do you think?
I'm actually, I'm not sure how it comes across. I'm fully in support of this venture, actually making it fairly aggressive. Maybe more to Jane's point. I don't want us to spend the lion's share of our time on this kind of at the cost of some of these other things, if it does either lacks support on the full commission, or we can't really wrap around the language of it at the last minute in order to get it on the ballot in a meaningful way. So I like it. Over and over again, I'll just say I just see through our kind of polling of the county employment scheme, we've got all the ingredients that we need in this county, except the trigger pull. I mean, for a number of reasons, I think funding is one of them. We just don't get the traction that we need, whether it's the comp plan or this topic, and so clearly the moves that we make need to be within our wheelhouse, and they need to be measurable, and they need to have the desired impact, a year or 10 years from now. So I support it. I don't, I also don't have the answers on the blend of, who sits and how, and I certainly don't want to set up any dynamics that make progress in this area even more difficult down the road because of turf or, whatever develops. But I'm not sure we can safety valve all of that. So I think if we decide, I guess, how we move forward and how we hold the importance of all of these, really that will help determine whether it gets there or not. That's true on climate. That's true on the Bill of Rights. So many things we're working on. I'm pro.
Okay.
Call for the vote.
Okay, Kevin, did you have one last comment you wanted to make?
No, I was just going to say that, so the motion on the floor is to move forward with a recommendation to the full commission that we create a law and justice oversight committee that will have jurisdiction over the courts, prosecuting attorney, and the sheriff's department. And with that, I would second Kyle's point of order to call the question.
Okay, so the question before us is whether all are in favor, is that correct, of this motion that has been tabled and seconded? Can we take a vote? Everyone in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, none opposed, no one abstaining. It has passed, so we retain that issue. Excellent. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Is the charter and the current structure of the local government going to be able to serve our county effectively in terms of having respect for the equal and equitable rights of all regardless of sex, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic class, ability, etc. So as the proposer of this issue, and now having spent the last 3 months learning a lot and hearing a lot, and just having having my eyes much wider open, I still feel that this is an important issue. I feel even more strongly, actually, now than I did when I put it on the table back in January or February, that this is an absolutely fundamental issue for our charter, not only over the next 10 years, but years beyond that. And so I would entertain a motion to retain this issue, recognizing what we need to do to find out how best to support that, using the charter and using the sort of the structural element that we can introduce through the charter to obligate our county government, elected and appointed, to do that. So that's just a bit of a backstory there. Okay, so go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would put a motion on the table that says that we work with other subcommittees to ensure that the county charter protect and respect equal and equitable rights for all, regardless of sex, gender, ethnicity, religion, or mine goes off the page, whatever else.
Yep. Okay.
Second.
Second. Okay. Discussion, questions, issues?
The motion sort of brings this notion forward. I was going to suggest, we're not there yet on process, but there is this concept of working out a solid Bill of Rights. I think that gets part of the way. And to our conversation earlier, Jane, I think, wherever an amendment, if that's feasible, or some form of, placeholder article can cover this, depending on our conversation, and work out that we're there. I mean, the number 2 as it was listed is a little bit like trapping vapor, but the way Kevin's put it, I think we can manage that.
Yeah.
And it would be second on my list. So
okay.
I would call this question also.
Okay, excellent. Sharon, go ahead.
Well, just as a practical matter, it seems that part of this discussion is how we encourage people to get involved, because a lot of times people aren't stepping up, and I'm sure there's a whole variety of reasons for that. I don't know if there's any language to speak to that at this point, but I do have some concern about identity politics.
Okay, so
I don't know.
Sharon, just for clarification, when you're talking about how do we encourage people to get involved, what are you referring to here in terms of this specific issue and whether or not we move forward with it or not?
Yeah, like in positions of authority within the county.
Well, the
Okay.
motion,
Even the Charter Review Commission, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
So the motion is to work within this committee, but the way I would see it is that this committee is supplying language to other subcommittees who are working on sections within the charter. So the Charter Review Commission will have to engage. We're going to go to the process committee and say, here's a section for the preamble. I think throughout the entire document of the charter, I think we can add language in certain areas that will be very important and powerful, frankly, to address this issue. So that's the engagement at our level. How that actually gets implemented, we need to be prescriptive in the charter so that it's clear what the county has to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. On that point, Kevin, I would also, I've heard that the operations committee as well has been having a lot of discussions with the head of HR in the county about the what is it, the human resources manual or something of the county government, and they're talking about the idea that that manual be broadly applicable across elected offices as well as appointed. Well, in my experience, around HR and these kinds of issues, it's absolutely a necessity that the HR manual for the county government be infused with this kind of language. And to some extent it already is, but I was just recently looking at some of the revisions that they were proposing, and it needs, I didn't have time to provide comments, but the way it's currently written, for my money, is not satisfactory in terms of meeting this kind of clause. And what can we do to ensure that guiding procedural and operational documents of the county government of that nature are appropriately worded in this respect, and also similarly for elected offices and how those are managed? And yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
So thank you, Madam Chair. So that gets to the crust of the work that's next after we adopt this motion, which is we need to do a deep dive into the areas of the county where we need to see this language. And then we put that where it's appropriate as a charter review commission within the charter. And so the example of the employee manual, I could see us putting in the charter that the county employee manual will include language that directly addresses these topics, these issues, and we just say it. We can do that in the charter. What we can't do is write the employee manual. We can say
right.
What we can say is the employee manual will address these topics. We can also say that the employee manual will be something that every employee and elected official signs. And somebody said that they don't think that's possible. Well, when I was in the Senate, we did it. We signed the exact same agreement that employees signed, because we same standard.
And I just did professionally, I just did an audit on a gender pledge that required all the staff in a Canadian mission in New York to the United Nations, a staff of about 34 people, to sign a gender pledge. And I just did a retrospective 2-year review on the results of that, and the culture change that it affected in that mission, which was already obligated to be promoting issues of gender equality within the UN system, was phenomenal, nothing short of phenomenal. The notion of having to sign something based on an understanding of what it is and what it means is extremely powerful, and an extremely important basis for creating education and awareness. So yeah, I appreciate what you're saying in that regard, Kevin. Okay, sorry. Further discussion before we take a vote on this?
Call the question.
Call the question. Are we in favor? Are we in favor of voting for this motion before us? And if so, let's proceed. Can I have a yes on who is in favor of advancing this motion and approving it? Okay. And no abstentions and no no's. It's moved. The motion is moved, and we'll put this issue forward. Excellent. Thank you, you guys. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. All right, number 3. The issue is to deepen, broaden incorporation of Indigenous Native values, perspectives, problem solving in the county structure. And Kyle is the proponent of this issue. Kyle, do you want to speak to this a bit?
To some extent, I think the next 4 or 5, some of the next 4 or 5, really, I'd love to see a blend.
Okay.
Frankly, I'm not sure how to do it. Not so much how to say what I'm looking for, but how to accomplish all of those pieces. Maybe working backward. I'm not sure we'll have traction for social and behavioral health services. We'll get to that separately because the public has spoken to that also. But maybe if that language about that group and related values is part of the Bill of Rights and is part of this interaction with some of the other committee work, maybe that's enough. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to qualify it and where it would live, to be honest.
Okay,
It's such
Kyle,
a
sorry.
big, it's
Are
such a
we-
big topic.
Okay, are we talking about number 7 at this point, or are we talking about number 3?
Well, let's address one at a time, I guess.
Right. Okay.
You know, we
Can-
haven't spent any time hearing from, you know, I struggle also with claiming to speak for, I don't claim to speak for any native
Okay.
group here, or what they would want out of inclusion in county government, other than what we've heard tangentially so far. So
So
I don't know
Kevin,
where that lives.
sorry, Kyle, can I offer something and just step out
Sure.
of the chair role for a sec in terms of how we might capture a couple of these issues in what we want to do with number 2, for example, okay? So in terms of incorporating Indigenous Native Values perspective problem solving in county structure, that one's quite unique. And so in and of itself, I think it may deserve some consideration and thought and attention. In terms of number 4, expanding recruitment of inclusion of regional Native individuals in county government, and number 6, proactively incentivizing younger multicultural populations into local government, I feel that both of those issues are ones that could fall under number 2, given issue number 2, given where we want to go with issue number 2. Because where we want to go with issue number 2 has to do with having a government that is more inclusive, more diverse, and representative of the population, of everyone in this population. And I feel that those 2 issues, number 4 and number 6, are ones that can be umbrellaed by number 2. And to me, we didn't get into a discussion of under number 2, but it relates to some issues we're already discussing, and that is the composition of committees, councils, commissions in this government, and the process that goes into appointing people to those bodies. I would say even go before that, how do you advertise for people to sign up for those entities? And what kind of encouragement is given to bring onto those bodies, you know, some representative diversity, or reaching out to the population to encourage people to feel they would have a voice if they sat on those bodies. So anyway, back to my point, which is just that number 4 and number 6, I feel could be wedded within number 2. That's one suggestion. Other thoughts? Kevin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm torn, and I think I'm leaning toward what you just said, Jane. I started thinking earlier when we were talking about number 1, should this be a Law and Justice Oversight Committee or a County Oversight Committee? Because what I see that committee doing on an ongoing basis is half the things on this list.
Yeah.
That said, you do everything, you accomplish nothing. So I actually am thinking that the Law and Justice Oversight Committee needs to be just that, really focused and specialized on law and justice. And I do not want to set up 2 committees, but I do see there's a conversation I'm having in myself about, wow, well, you know, I mean, one of the other things is I want our place names on all county maps to start recognizing the Salish peoples and the actual names of these places. I want to make sure that all of our committees and boards are equitable and just in representation of the community that they're supposedly representing. Or frankly, they are more diverse than the community they're representing. And, you know, I think we can get there through number 2, through providing language to each of the other committees. And maybe this committee, you know, part of me could see, and I'm thinking out loud, part of me could see us, like, we advanced number 1 and number 2. And then our job is to have one of us on every other committee, like looking at what they're doing and then discussing it and saying, hey, here's the, you know, the racial justice and equity lens you need to put this through, and here's some language. But some of those specific tasks that Kyle has brought up in here, I don't know how prescriptive we can get, but I want to do
Right.
it.
So can I ask your permission as non-chair to weigh in again on this for a moment?
Yeah, go.
Okay, so first of all, what you're referring, what we're referring to here, what you're speaking to here, Kevin, is seeing issues of justice and equity as a cross-cutting theme across the work of what the committees are doing. Okay, that's an exact example what a cross-cutting theme for in the case of gender equality is. Okay, the point being that this is an issue that is infused into these other committees as appropriate, given what those committees are focused on. Same thing too for its infusion, the infusion of these themes into the sections of the charter as appropriate. Okay, so I think that is conceptually the way it's useful to be thinking about this. The other, so and I'm welcoming of your thoughts on that. The other thing I wanted to raise as a question related to number one, and actually Kyle and I chatted a little bit about this afternoon when we had a pre-meeting conversation. The Law and Justice Oversight Committee, I am wondering if it would not be better labeled the Justice and Equity Oversight Committee. And perhaps with that alternate wording, less overwhelming, threatening, what have you, to people who are opposed to elected bodies with authority being challenged. And I don't mean in any way to diminish the importance of maintaining the concept of law and oversight of authorities of, upholding the law in the county. But I'm thinking a little small p political here in terms of optics and reception of the boldness of what we want this entity to do. So that's just some food for thought there. And we don't have to decide now. On the issue of cross-cutting, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, I think we do need to decide now. I think we need to start making decisions.
Yeah, okay.
So let's push ourselves. So look, like I said, I'm torn myself. I am very concerned that if we don't call it a Law and Justice Oversight Committee, that the Law and Justice Oversight will not take place.
Okay.
Now, the counterpoint myself, if we're prescriptive of where their authority lays, or lies, we can make sure that we prescribe that. As you were speaking, I started thinking, okay, well, who else? Well, obviously the county council. I would love to see this body have oversight, like any ordinance the county council is putting forward. They kind of look at it and say, you missed a point. The auditor through the elections department, going in with recommendations of, maybe I'm even convincing myself, Jane, that you're right. Jesus.
It's got to be, because it's 1 after 5. So that's just what happens.
It may be, it's also a bit the Canadian in me, I have to say, I have to admit and confess, is that justice to me is the law. They're one in, the law is, I don't know, I just see those concepts as being, very, but honestly, that is a Canadian bit of a gloss of my Canadian lens. So that doesn't necessarily work in the States, but
for this, if I can, for the sake of time, we'll have to vote on it and see. For the sake of time, I move that we hold issue number 3 as a means to infuse Indigenous Native values in conversations around charter structure and cross-committee operations to the extent possible.
Right. Okay, I'll second it so I can have discussion.
okay.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I guess it's holding it as a value moving forward. It isn't a specific action, but it isn't at that level at this point. I mean, to your points about weaving it in with number 2, I don't disagree, but I don't think it's not just like another group of identity. In, you know, the reason I'm struggling with it, the way I see it is it's, you know, it is, I mean, if we're talking about place names and we're talking about valuing our home spaces through a whole nother lens, then it rises to a much greater extent. That doesn't mean I know exactly how to apply that. And I mean, it's, in the past, I've thought about it as a separate office. That's probably not the right way to move forward. Now is not the right time. This is not the means. And I'm speaking for multiple groups who haven't necessarily expressed that themselves. But it's how do we make it a placeholder to keep it and move forward?
Okay. By the way, just for a point of order, clarification rather, Kevin, if you don't mind, when I was talking about building a couple of issues below number 1 and 2 into number 2, I was talking about points number 4 and number 6 to go into number 2, to be embedded within number 2. So number 3 was an outlier for me still. So just to be clear, Kevin, that's just because I felt that might tidy us up a bit. But so anyway, we're still discussing number 3. Kevin and then Sharon, because Kevin, you had your hand up a minute ago.
We have one member of the public here, and maybe if we could pause our conversation and go to public comment. I think they want to make a comment, and then we can come back to this. And I actually have what I hope could be a way for us to move forward.
Okay, so I'm going to stop my screen share and we'll go to public comment. So inviting either of our visitors today, please go ahead. Linnea or Micheline?
Well, I'm happy to make a few comments. I just want to tell the commission this is Linnea Anderson and I live in Friday Harbor. Thank you all.
You live on the west side of San Juan Island, which is technically not Friday Harbor. You live on San Juan Island.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm always ready to have good oversight and to be corrected, learn better ways of doing things. So this conversation is really exciting and the feedback is incredible. Your discussion around Law and Justice Committee or Law and Justice Oversight, I think is really a fascinating and interesting idea. I think there's other places who are doing it. So I've been scribbling notes. I'm kind of looking at things. I know the judge talked about this a little bit, so I don't want to talk for the judge, but she was really careful to point out that there are certain things like judicial decisions are not usually things that a committee could maybe call a judge out and say, why did you decide this? And also prosecutors deciding why they decided different things. But so one of the things that occurred to me is if we set up a system where we had perhaps oversight of our data, or maybe there was something where you really asked your system to look at our work through a different lens in a way that is less specific to a specific case or ongoing situation or something that could be caught in appeals, and really just looking at things in terms of data and numbers. Because I think that would have cascading effects for looking at our data is good. The other thing is I understand the all or nothing discussion. And so this concept of an equity and diversity committee is also, I think, the missing link, is that if all the department heads were required to serve on an equity and diversity committee as a work group with some specific benchmarks or goalposts that we're trying to achieve every year, that could be another thing. I'm spitballing here, but I've been hearing you talk about the resolution and that nothing's happened, but it takes leadership to put that in place and to set goals and objectives. And so I would be happy to serve on that committee. And then the last piece is Commissioner Davies, you talked about something a few weeks ago regarding young people to speak to the commission. I haven't heard from anyone, but I have kind of starting to formulate a pool of young people in the community who have been touched by the justice system are not currently being touched by the justice system, but formerly were, and may be interested in speaking to this group or another body. But I would love to connect offline. If you had specific questions or specific expectations, I would be happy to try to work on that as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Linnea. That's fantastic. Really appreciate your input as always, and delighted you can join us. Okay, Micheline, any comment from Micheline? Yeah, your hand is raised. Go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Micheline Halliday. I live on San Juan Island. I just want to thank you for giving all of us the opportunity to attend these meetings. I'm learning so much from them. But the most important thing I've gotten from all these meetings is hope. And I do agree with the Commissioner Ranker that these things need to have teeth. One of the things when you said that it brought to mind is the 1/4 mile no-go zone, voluntary no-go zone on the west side of San Juan Island. And I can't say how many people are respecting it because they're not there, but I can sure tell you a whole lot of people aren't. And I think, well, I just think it needs to have more teeth, although I thank MRC for enacting it. I think it was wonderful that they came up with it. Anyway, my point is just to say thank you to all of you. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Micheline. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your presence.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we're at 5:09, and Kevin, you've raised your hand. I'm going to go back to screen share, all right, to put our issues back up again. And Kevin, go ahead with what you'd like to share.
I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm not sure I support it, but I think it might be a cool motion.
Oh,
So-
goodness, go ahead.
So let me just raise this as a discussion before I put a motion, because it would take two motions. First, I would,
Okay.
as maker of the previous motion, I would ask to pull back the motion to advance the Committee on Law and Justice Oversight. And then the second on that motion, which I think was Kyle, maybe it was Sharon, would have to agree to that. We would pull that back. The new motion would be that we create an independent Citizens Equity and Justice Oversight Committee that will have oversight over all of the law and justice branches and all of the elected offices and the county manager and the administrative offices. So basically over the entire county, and it would truly be oversight. And we just, if we were to do that as a motion, we would be monumentally increasing the amount of work we have to do over the next weeks, because we have a model for the law and justice oversight with King County. I do not know of a model for oversight over equity and justice over an entire government. But I like the idea. And if we're going to be bold and actually have teeth, let's step up. And just as I said, Jane, when you were speaking, I started going over in my head, what would an oversight committee over the council look like? What would it look like over the auditor, over the administrative departments? So as I'm saying that, I think as a way to move forward, and again, we want to present Wednesday to the full commission on where we're thinking. And so I could see us saying that out of tonight's meeting, we vote to approve that oversight committee. And then we also we already voted to advance number 2. And I agree with Jane that number 2 includes at least a couple of the ones below that, and maybe more. So I'm curious what people think about that before we put a motion on the floor to recall a previous motion and advance a new one.
Okay, Kyle, Sharon.
I would just like to be clear on the makeup of the committee. If it's a Law and Justice Committee or if it's a Justice and Equity Committee, what's the difference of the makeup of the committee?
So Linnea said, hey, if it was made up of all the electeds, I would not see that. I think this is majority citizens. Have 1 or 2 elected officials, particularly if it's the entire, if it's oversight over the entire county. I think it's definitely majority citizens. And then maybe you have 1 or 2, I would even say non-voting members who are, maybe you have 1 council member and a judge or one council member and the sheriff or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, just
I think it.
Kevin, on
forwards-
that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Kevin, I just want to add to that. The existing law and justice council that our government has, I'm thinking, perhaps a representative, one or two or three critical individuals from that council be non-voting members of this committee as a possible suggestion, because that would also bridge those bodies in terms of talking to each other.
It could, if I may, Madam Chair.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry for offering that. I just.
No, we could say that we want one representative from the Law and Justice Council. Another action we could take later on is, and I believe statutorily we can do this, but I think we should change our Law and Justice Council to add a couple citizens to that. So that would be a whole different action, and maybe Linnea can tell us in chat if I'm allowed to do that. But I still think, the Law and Justice Council is all internal.
Yeah,
and-
I have issues with that as well. But anyway,
I think that's a whole separate thing we could do. But Kyle, what do you think of this discussion?
I think it's really easy to get into. I'm not opposed. I'll say that, and I think there's some concern that in order to try and fit everything, we water everything. I think you sort of water it down. You sort of said that. We don't have to work out the mechanics of how it would function right now. I don't know if it helps me at all with number 3, and just to get this through this list for the time we have. I think it's a great goal to start with right now, and if it winnows in some way moving forward, that's kind of expected. That's fine. I don't think the wording of the motion has to fit what we expect 2 months from now, I guess that's what I think.
okay. Any other comments with Kevin? Yeah, go ahead.
I have an idea.
Okay.
Maybe afterwards we can adjourn. I say we keep our 2 motions as they are,
Okay.
and we tell the full commission in 2 days, these are the motions we've advanced unanimously out of our committee so far for you to consider. And then we say, we had an interesting conversation about oversight, and we get other commissioners' input on that. And back and forth, and let's have a dialogue with the full commission and see where that ends up. I am really mixed. So I love the idea of an oversight committee over the entire county, and I'm also scared because if you broaden it like that, to Kyle's point and what I was saying earlier, you ask for everything, you get nothing. Whereas if it's oversight over law and justice over those 3 departments, I think it's pretty clear.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Sharon, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, could we not make a motion and vote on number 3 as it stands right now? Because we haven't done that. Seems like we could.
Yeah, I just don't know what it means.
Yeah, number 3, the way it's deeper and broaden incorporation of Indigenous Native values, perspectives, problems.
I'm saying, what does that mean? What does that actually do? So again,
what's the practical application of that?
so what are Indigenous Native values? Are we talking about land values? Are we talking about names? Are we talking about we're going to implement a rule that says the county council needs to think 7 generations behind and 7 generations forward on every single decision they make? What are we saying?
I like that idea.
Right, Kyle, and then I'm gonna take my opportunity to make a comment.
I think the challenge right now is that I saw us getting through these 7 items, weeks ago, at least to sort of either give them a place or move through them. And we haven't done that. So we're trying to do 2 or 3 things at the same time, which is to, give them the time that we've done the other things in the past couple of weeks, and to decide what they look like, what gives them teeth, and what the structure is. So I don't know if we can do that. I told this to Jane a couple hours ago. I often work better backward. I'd rather spend some time tonight on how we fit the town hall things. I mean, some of these drop out. We're not going to get to a consular office.
Okay,
4 and 6, I think, can be combined. Number 7 is an entirely new topic. It fits with maybe number 10. I don't know how. That's one that I'd like to boilerplate for that, letter forward to other people or other parts of the county
Okay.
to prioritize it. But I don't see how it has charter
right. So
charter
traction, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
play on it. So maybe
Okay.
maybe to Sharon's point, we just keep number 3. I mean, really would like I really would like to have time to entertain input from some of our indigenous communities.
Sure.
And maybe something trickles out of
Okay.
that, maybe something does
Okay.
not. But
Well, point of order, I just remembered, we actually have a motion and a second on the table to adopt number 3. We're under discussion for that right now.
Did we?
Okay.
Did we? I didn't remember a motion specifically on number.
Kyle moved and I seconded, and for the
Yeah,
sake,
and we've been
Oh,
discussing
for
it
the
for some
sake of this
time now.
discussion. Okay, yeah, that was to adopt number 3. Okay.
so I'm
Okay,
willing to move that to vote for that with the understanding that we need to still define it, but at least we've said we want to do this.
okay, fair enough. So I'm going to put a question to you all. Are you prepared to maintain this issue based on the motion that's being articulated by Kevin? And let us put it to a vote if everybody's okay with that. Who all in favor of voting yes for this motion related to issue number 3?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Record,
Okay,
Kyle moved and I seconded.
excellent. Oh, so yeah, for the record, Kyle moved.
I
and-
want to make sure hang on a second. I just want to make sure I have that here. Because we started.
Deepen / broaden incorporation of indigenous native values, perspectives, problem solving in county structure.
That's what we were moving to vote on. And
We need
but I
to
moved before
Would-
it was a jello
Yeah.
red gelatin version of that.
so Sharon.
Yes, I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
I had to go way back up in my notes, but I have it.
Okay, excellent. So as a point of order and a suggestion for us to consider in moving towards closing the meeting now, then I would like to propose that a motion be put forward to take issue number 4 and issue number 6 and incorporate them within issue number 2 as important cross-cutting issues and themes that need to be taken up. Kevin?
I support that and would support a motion. I would also say that number 9 can be part of number 1.
And I would agree with that as well if others do. So, okay, so
Can I so move? Is that enough, or do you need it in long form?
yeah, what do we need? Do we need a motion to incorporate issue number 9 under issue number 1?
No, we could just say by consensus that we recognize
Okay,
we'll address issue number 9, law enforcement more involved in local community building.
okay. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay, yes. All right.
Hang on a
All in
second.
favor?
Hang on, because I'm having trouble keeping up with who's making what motion. All right. So the motion to incorporate issue number 9 into issue number 1, is that a complete? Is that
By
It's not a,
you would say in the minutes, you would say by consensus, the committee found that issue number 9 should be dealt with or shall be dealt with in motion for number 1. And then the next one was it 4 and 6?
yes.
So then
Yes.
the next one was by consensus, the committee found that issues number 4 and 6 shall be dealt with in motion for number 2.
Right.
And I like the term crosscut, and I think that's helpful.
In a cross-cutting manner, yeah. Okay, and Sharon, I can help you with any teeny addition to language there if you need it.
okay?
Okay, I would also like to ask you if you would like issues under number 7 and issues under number 10 to be considered in our next meeting for further discussion. Those issues related to social and behavioral health, mental health, and housing. Yes, Kevin?
think because they were brought to us by the public or by a commissioner, I think that we have to consider them. So that means that we either say that we're tabling it for now, or we say that we're going to move it forward to the full commission, but we're not doing it for our Wednesday presentation.
Correct. I agree. All
Cool.
right. Thoughts on tabling for now, or any other thoughts?
Well, I think it's you, Madam Chair, would be bringing those back to for our consideration at a future meeting. So we're not
Gotcha.
tabling them,
Okay.
future agenda.
Gotcha. Okay, Sharon?
Yeah, and okay, so we want to vote on that and then have somebody like Barbara LaBrache come and speak to us.
I don't think we need to vote on it. I think the chair
Yeah.
just puts it on the agenda.
Yeah, they're deferred to our agenda for the next meeting. So that leaves that open. So we will retain those 2 points, number 7, number 10, for further discussion in our next meeting.
How about number 8?
I'm going to propose to all of you that the issue of the rights of the child be also incorporated under the human rights sort of the broader human rights umbrella of number 2. Okay, so rights of the child should be considered as part of broader human rights. In terms of an educational office, this was an idea that was discussed in one of the town halls.
Yeah.
And my view on that, I shouldn't be saying this before I've heard from you, but I'm in the interest of speeding things up here. I do not feel that creating an educational office is something that we can accommodate in our work. So could we discuss that a little bit now? Your thoughts on issue number 8?
I would add, I think despite the interest at the public level, we did mention earlier that, you know, something on that level is or that's potentially the wheelhouse of the county, the Board of Education, or each individual school. I'm not, well, said differently, I'm not sure it fits into the scope of the charter for this committee.
Okay.
As
Kevin?
separate from rights of children.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you, Kevin. Sharon, go ahead, Kevin.
I think the equal rights stuff we're working on would address this, and anything in addition to that would have to be in a school board.
Okay. Sharon, your thoughts on this?
I agree.
Okay. So with that, do we need a motion to strike number 8 from our list of issues?
No, we just don't take action on it.
Gotcha. Okay, excellent. All right then. I think that adequately. Yep.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, and
Sure.
just to recognize, we all feel that that is a very important issue. We just feel that it's being dealt with either through our oversight, through our equal rights work that we're doing in
Right.
general for all people, not just children.
Correct.
And where it's specific to education and schools, it would need to be dealt with by a school board.
Correct. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Is everybody in agreement with what Kevin just said? Kyle, you okay with that? I'm nodding in the head. Yeah, okay, excellent. All right, so I think would the committee like me to update our process table and Sharon take notes, take minutes? Is that agreeable to everyone? Yeah, and I will. Yep, go ahead, Kyle.
It's agreeable to me. Before we adjourn, I would love for, and this is for Mr. Chairman also, because the work of this group and process around language in the preamble and the Bill of Rights is so close, I don't know if we can report simultaneously or back to back, because I think there's some rich conversation at that point, and I think there's a little angst right now about even though I cross over on some and some of the rest of you cross on climate, there's some silo concern, I think, and I think that's understandable. So I'd like to shine some daylight on that in our meeting.
Is that operations committee?
That's process.
Who's the chair of process?
Bob O'Connell.
Okay. Oh, yeah, he's emailed me a bunch today. Okay.
Could have gone to Baker.
Yeah. Jane, do you have Bob's phone number by chance?
I can get it for you.
I might have it too. So
If one of
Okay.
you could text it to me.
Okay.
That's an excellent suggestion, Kyle, but I had not notified him to present, so I'll see if he can.
Okay.
Because I think having these two committees present at the same time might be interesting.
Yeah, okay. And I just wanted, prior to us signing off for the evening, I would like to ask you all if you would like me to present on our behalf on Wednesday and prepare, because I would feel more comfortable preparing a few points for presentation. If you would like me to draft a few points for our presentation based on the outcome of this meeting and run those past you prior to Wednesday. Is that agreeable?
That
Okay,
Sounds great.
excellent. And Sharon, you just share me your notes whenever you've got them done, and then I can draw on your minutes from
I
this
will get them
meeting.
to you tonight.
Oh, okay, tomorrow's okay as well. Kevin, go ahead.
I move that we adopt all three of the other minutes that we have before us.
Oh, bravo, monsieur. Très bien, très bien. Okay, a motion is on the table to adopt all the minutes from the 3 previous meetings, so we can get those up on the web with one minor exception, which is that Sharon just confirms. Did Linnea tell us? Oh yeah, we got that confirmation already.
Good, it's all good.
Thank you. Okay, do we
Correct.
have
We just didn't believe the courts were that cool, but they actually are.
a
Just me.
second?
Just me. I didn't believe it. I have a second right here.
A second. All in favor of approving the minutes from the last 3 meetings? Aye. Sharon, you good?
Yep.
Yay. Bravo,
Sing it out.
bravo. Okay, any new business? Okay, actually, one last thing, guys. It's 5:29. We didn't talk about future speakers. Can we agree that that will be a topic on our agenda for next week? Kevin?
I think the chairs should just pick them and I'll be happy.
Okay, so the chairs are co-empowered to identify speakers for next week.
Yeah, dude, set your agenda and I'll be happy to show up.
All right, all right. We might
Hold me
need,
down.
we indeed, and we may need your help with contacting any of them, but
Yeah, yeah, I think we should. I'm not sure if some of them have been contacted or not. I mean, I understand what,
But
Berto's
that'll be a
thinking.
future meeting, so it's now going to be 5:31. And
Uh-oh.
and I'm in
Okay.
trouble. And
I
I'm
move
gonna
we
be,
adjourn.
okay, second? Okay,
Second.
Sharon? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Stop
Okay.
recording.
And since I ran us over time, I've been fired, and I'm fine with that. Okay, so,
Can I be fired?
no.
Thank you, guests.
You guys, this was awesome. Yeah, and thank you, guests, if you're still on. And yeah, wonderful, guys. Really good work.
Uh,
Send me Bob O'Connell's phone number, please.
yeah, I was just looking for it. I don't think I have it.
I'll see if I've got it. I might have it.
Okay,
And
thank
I will get back to you right away, Kevin, on that.
In case I forget, because I'm brain dead and I need to go do something with my family quickly.
Easter's over, but thanks. It's okay.
If one of you is going to talk to Bob, or if one of you wanted to talk to Bob and share this concept of the 2 committees reporting, that would be great.
Okay, Kyle,
James.
did you want to do, yeah?
Sure.
Yeah, what you want?
Yeah, you're both on Lopez. Aren't you guys like, don't you
No, man,
hang-
the dude's in Mexico. Okay, the dude's in Mexico. He's not on Lopez. Let's really be clear.
No, he's back. He's back.
Oh, okay.
back.
Okay, he didn't tell me. He didn't tell me. Okay, either I can or Kyle can.
I'll talk
Kyle,
to him.
you're on the
Thanks,
same
Kyle.
committee together,
Okay, so I'm not even gonna think about it. Kyle, you're gonna set up my agenda for Wednesday.
Oh, okay. One committee at a time.
Let me know. Bye.
Thank you, you guys. This has been great. Take care. Have a good night. All right. Bye-bye.